And in this section, we'll try to understand some UX laws and models and theories which can be effectively useful while you are designing your products, and they can help you keep in mind the user's perspective, and how you can create a better and visually appealing and effective products at the same time. So we'll start in this section with this UX laws. So I'm not going to discuss all the laws, but I will discuss majorly four or five laws which you can keep in mind and which you can use while designing your product. So I'll just discuss the majority ones, and then you can go to Google and get a glimpse of the other laws that can be useful. But I will be discussing the most useful ones, which each or every designer must know before beginning their designing the product. So first one is the Fitts law. So if you go by the definition, it is basically a scientific definition, but I will just explain it to you using the diagram. So whenever you are designing your elements, your buttons, your cards or your text, anything on your screen, keep it this much small and keep it this much at a distance from fingers or thumb or a mouse click of a user that it is effectively accessible. So what this law is trying to say is that the time required to move to a target area is your CTA button or card or anything that is clickable, is a function of distance to the target and the size of the target. So basically, it is trying to convey that the less the time the user takes to click a button, the more effective that screen or that product is for the user. So keep your things at a small distance and at enough size, not too much big or not too much small, from a user's touch perspective. Sorry. Next is Hicks law. It is very simple law and you can easily remember it while designing your products. So it states that the time it takes to make a decision increases with the number of alternatives presented. So just imagine you are giving a drop down menu to a user in your screen, or you're giving a list of categories to the user. So the more the categories or the more the options you give in a drop down button, the more time it takes for the user to make a final decision. So keep that list small enough, not that small that it only has one or two options, but keep it small enough so that the user can take decisions in a faster way. So if the user is taking effective decisions in a quick succession of time, it will be a better product rather than you are giving him or her more than 15 or 20 categories at the same time, which are not useful for him or her. Next is the Miller's law. So Miller's law is somewhat, related to Hicks law. So it suggests that a normal human brain can only hold around seven plus or minus two chunks of information in short-term memory. So the same goes with the category drop-down menu. If you're giving him seven options, or let's say plus minus two, you're giving him five options or six options or eight or nine options, the user can easily memorize that or feed it into his brain and make a decision. But if you are giving him less than that or more than that, that this can be a problem for user to effectively use that product. So these laws are somehow interrelated, but that Hicks law is related to the time perspective, that how much time the user can take, and it is related to the memory perspective, that how much options or how much categories a user can at one time in short-term memory can keep in his or her mind. Next, we'll discuss Jacob's law. So what Jacob's law says that the users spend most of their time on the other websites, on other website or other mobile application. So they expect your site to work in a similar way to what they are used to. So I'll just break down this into more simpler way. Just imagine you are going to an e-commerce website. Just imagine you are going to Amazon.com. So you know how things are structured, where the account button is, where the cart button is, how things are listed, how your search bar is, how bottom navigation is, how top navigation is. So if you are going to design a new e-commerce website, you can keep these basics in mind and you can just try to structure your web page or your mobile app in a similar way so that it doesn't take user to learn something new. The user already knows how to use your platform because he is experienced with other platforms or other applications. So I've just presented the same example here. For example, you have Amazon, Myntra, or other e-commerce sites. They follow a similar pattern, similar checkout process, and most of the mental models are same. So this way, you can allow your users to focus on their task rather than learning new models. So this is the whole idea for the Jacobs. Next one is the Tesler's law. So it is also known as law of conservation of complexity. So it states that every system, the system or application here refers to your platform you are designing, has a certain level of inherent complexity that cannot be reduced. But yes, complexity can be only be shifted from one part to another. For example, you are creating a mortgage aggregator platform. So you might be listing a lot of mortgage options for the user depending on his preference or the options he wants to choose. So what the complexity part is here, that you need to take user inputs, like what is their maximum value they want to take mortgage of, their interest rate, their risk aversion rate, or their location, and everything, a lot of input fields. So that is a complex part. So that cannot be just removed, that can only be shifted. That form input can be taken manually by the user, or you can autofill it from his or her past records. So complexity, in short, complexity cannot be reduced. Just to make the user flow and the user's use of the platform or application more effective, you somehow have to figure out how that complexity can be broken down into smaller pieces or can be shifted to the another part, so that the whole UX flow does not get distorted, or the UX does not feel like that it is taking too much time for him or her to get to the final decision part. Another laws of UX which might be there in the market and which can be useful for you, but these are one of the main that are used across the industry, and these are the ones that you probably must know before starting to build a design a project or a product. But yes, you can Google and find many useful laws and you can go through them. And if you have any doubts or anything, you can just mention in the comment and I try to explain those laws to you in more simpler way than anyone can do. So that was all about UX laws, what I mentioned in the previous lecture. So in this lecture, we will understand some of the UX models and theories, which are somewhat related to your UX laws, but these are more broad or more wholesome in the perspective category. So these will understand the users more. This will help you understand the users more, and this will most probably incorporate those laws into themselves and create a bigger package or bigger picture of how you can design your product. So those were just related to little elements. Laws are basically related to little elements or grouping or sections or components of your app. UX models and theories are more concerned with the whole product building activity and how you're going to design your product from beginning to the end. So just like UX laws, there are lot more models and theories which are coming every day. As I mentioned here, that they are continuously evolving and new laws, models, and theories may emerge over time. So you can just go through them and understand that. But I'm going to discuss only those which are necessary and which are mandatory for you to know, for you to understand that yes, how you can proceed with building these digital products. So first one is the user-centered design. This is the most talked about theory across UI UX industry, and this is the one that should be your number one step. That you should know this. You cannot skip this part. So basically, it is just a simple theory. It just states that a design framework that focuses on involving users throughout the design and development process to create products that meet the user's need. So at each and every step, it is your either it is your research step, empathy step, or iteration step, or testing or prototype. Any step it can be. You just need one thing to be constantly in your mind. You just need to remember and focus that you are designing the product for the end user. So what your end user is, what type of your end user is, how it's gonna use your product. That should be your main goal and focus. And around that focus, you should be building your product. So this is what user-centered design is. Second is information following theory. So this theory basically draws parallel between how animals search for food. I think animals like most of harsh word, but it's in a positive way that you search for food and you how users seek information on websites. So users are more likely to engage with contents that provides high information scent. Now the high information scent is in double quotes. I'll tell you the meaning of this. So basically information scent is like you have 4 or 5 different sections on your website. User will most likely prefer to go to that section and go to the view more button or the complete list of that section if he or she senses that yes, this section, if enlarged, can provide a more useful and bigger picture to the information he or she wants to see. So, for example, if you are listing number of tasks, number of employees on a project management system, and the user is more interested in project details, so he'll go to the section part where the projects are listed, and he'll click on the more info button. I'm just giving you an example for this. So when he or she clicks on that more info button, a complete picture, a more detailed version of that project appears. So try to create that value, try to create that true value to the user by presenting some concise version and then show him or her that yes, on clicking this or on proceeding with this part, you can get a more detail. Try to just make users sense or feel that yes, there is something that is of true value to him or her, and he or she can just click on that and get that value with information. So this is just information foraging theory is all about. Gestalt principles. So Gestalt principles are also most important one. This is not just a single theory. This is like a collection of different principles and theories and laws. As I mentioned, that these are just models and theories are a bigger package of all the laws consolidated together. So this is basically a set of principles which were described by the Gestalt. There was a person named Gestalt, and he just tried to explain that how humans perceive and organize, visual information, including concepts like proximity, similarity, closure, and continuity. So I'll just go with one or two here. Like there's a law of similarity. So if you are designing your avatar in your mobile app, user avatar, if you are keeping it round, keep that avatar round all across your applications and platforms so that users can just look at it and say that yes, that shape is an user avatar. That is what law of similarity is all about. Law of proximity is like, as you can see, grouping. So if you're grouping certain items together and some other items together, that means you are grouping them. And grouping conveys to the user that yes, these items belong to one section, they have a specific function, and the other items belong to the other section, and they have specific function like that. To convey, so basically to convey messages to the user, to convey the functionality or feature of the section to the user, how you can make that perceive and organize in a visual way. This is what all Gestalt principles are all about. Next is affordance theory. It is very interesting one. So it was proposed by Don Norman, and it basically tries to convey that whenever you are designing an object, the shape of the object, the visual appearance of the object, the color, the font icon, the icons, anything, just try to keep it in accordance with the real world or in accordance with what that component's functionality or feature is. So if you just see at the example here, so if you have a switch at home, you by default know that you can flip that switch on or off. You don't need any learning or any guidance on how to use that switch. Just it is similar to the button, like a push pull button part, or if you go to a door and push and pull door, you don't need to learn something new about that. You can just push the door or pull the door. So basically, you know. And how do you know? Because that design of the object is basically visually appealing to you that yeah, this is my functionality and this is my feature. So this is what affordance theory is all about. Next one is the cognitive load theory. So what this theory is all about, that it explains how the working memory's capacity can impact learning and problem solving. So while designing a product, you know that cognitive load, what is all about, the memory that the user is gaining while using a product. So your design should aim to minimize that load to enhance user understanding. So don't try to give a lot of or a bunch of information to the user at the same time so that he or she gets confused. Give him information or visuals and everything on your design in a smaller way, in a smaller part, so that he or she can just memorize that or keep that into his or her memory and take good and effective solution, giving your product a more better and more good rating over the other products. Another one is the hooked model. So what it is all about, it is just like if you have ever heard of the part gamification, I'll create a section on that. I will explain to you how gamification in UI UX is taking and more heights about in these days. So this is a model that explains how habit forming products are designed by creating a loop of trigger, action, variable, reward, and investment. So if you have gone to any platforms where invite option is there, where referral option is there, and in exchange of that invite or referral, you give some products, some awards, and just in like games. So you with time, slowly with time, you become addictive to that model of the business model of that product. So this is what hook model is all about. It basically explains that how these habit forming products or habit forming activities on a single product can make the product more useful to the user and more increase its productivity, increase its effectiveness, and increase the user time on that product. So this is what hook model is explaining all about, and you can just keep these things in mind, all these laws. As explained, that there are lot other models and theories which you can Google and which you can understand. So I'll say that yes, go through these and mention in the comment section if you have any doubts or anything you want to discuss with me. I'll try to break down these theories into simpler forms so you can understand in a more effective way. Now we have discussed all the basic components and laws, theories, and basic understanding the fundamentals of UI UX, the complete design process, the stages of design process. We'll move ahead with creating a simple project so that you can better understand all the stages and the component at each stage. So in this lecture, we're going to understand basically about the two stages, the define stage and the empathize stage. So basically they are reverse in order. The empathize stage comes first and the design stage comes second. So this is just a small example to explain you basically how you are documenting a project. So you have started working on a project and you have somehow try to roughly sketch or briefly sketch a layout for the project you are working on. So if you are working on either you are working on a small project that takes a little time, or if you just want to briefly lay out some major things before you briefly get into the other steps and other components of empathize and define stage, you can just document your project. So documentation is just like giving half an hour or 1 hour to your reviewing with your teammates and with your clients, and then just basically typing that out or writing that out on paper. What basically the project is all about, what are the requirements, who are the users. So just like that, you can firstly move ahead with the overview part. So the overview contains a title. It creates a project summary. So like for a project management system, you can write that what in short in 20 to 25 words, what the project is all about that you want to create. Next come the core user needs. So on a holistic view or on a broader picture, what are the users need, what they want from the software or the digital platform that they want to get designed. And the next comes the product goals. So after using that product or after using that digital platform, what are the final outcomes that they're gonna move ahead with, or what are the final product goals that they want to achieve with that platform, so that this product could act as a useful component or a useful companion for their day-to-day enterprise or normal B2C activities. Your core user needs, your project summary, and your product goals, you can move ahead with user personas. So in actual, user personas are more detailed with more information about the users. But when you are just drawing a rough layout for the project you are going to design, you can just write it out as the most basic users that you think might be your target audience. Like for the project management software, there will be project managers, there will be level one employees like team leads or senior consultants or senior associates, and then the level two employees like the interns, the trainees, or the junior analysts and the junior employees for the company. So you can just define out the user persona for these employees, that how they're gonna use the software and what will be their outcomes, what will be their achievements, or what are their expectations from the project. After that, you can write out as many things you want to document your project, or you want to, concise and in a briefly manner, just type it out the information that you need while you move ahead with the expanded version of your user personas, the documentation, the wireframes and all. So you can mention like research methods, what are your observations for the competitors, what are your features you're gonna give them. There might be some functionality that is different from others and that you wanna include. And there might some be discussion material, like there might be some doubts, because this is just the initial stage for the project and you are just roughly layouting all the components and elements of your final software or platform you're gonna design. So there might be some points of doubt, some points of discussion that you want to discuss with your senior members or project manager or even the clients. So you can just write it out and these discussion material, and then you can later remember these points and just discuss to sort it out and include in either the functionality or research methods or any component of the documentation part. So this was all about the initial documentation or the initial layouting of the platform you're going to design. And after that, you can just move ahead with the empathize, the main expanded version of empathize phase, which includes all the user pain points and empathy maps and all. And then step by step to the next steps of design process.
In this video, we'll try to understand what basically information architecture is. So, information architecture is what we start to draw between the overlapping phases between define and ideate phase, which is the second and third phase. So, information architecture is nothing but laying out the basic structure of all the pages and all the screens on your platform, like connecting dots from which page the user starts and from which page the user goes. Basically, that is a flow. But information architecture is more concerned with the information that is being laid out on each page. So if you have three pages, just imagine that you have three pages like home, about page, contact page. So what goes on the home page, what goes on the contact page, and what goes on the about page, and how these pages are connected using the similar information. These All of these things are identified in the information architecture step. So as you go by the definition, that it refers to the way information is organized, structured, and presented within a digital product or platform such as a website, app, or software interface. So directly I'll show an example of this so you can better understand what an information architecture is. So this is an example of a e-commerce sitemap example. Sitemaps are basically a little bit different from information architectures in a way that sitemaps are basically concerned that how a website is placed on a domain and which are the pages that that website holds. But here I have written sitemap by example, by mistake, so you can just ignore it. You can refer it to as an information architecture example. So for example, we have a e-commerce website and we have a home page. So what basically goes on home page section, and what each section holds. For example, homepage has 4 sections: product section, the cart section, the account section, and the other pages section. So these can be sections or these can be other pages as well. So products can be a different page, cart can be a different page, and account can be a different page. So next we refer that what goes on a product page. So product page has different categories. It has product details, it has compare products option, the cart has order summary, shipping method, payment method, and shipping options. Your account has profile, payment methods, saved address, password, order history, and gift cards. And other pages might be like support, explore, about us, or contact us, or privacy policy and terms and conditions pages. So basically, what we are trying to do in information architecture is we are laying out the basic structure of all the information that we're gonna provide. So what we have brainstormed in first and second stages of design process. In this stage, the overlapping stage, the second and third stage of design process, we are laying out a structure where what information we have decided that could be shown on the platform. We have just basically structured it out in a proper organized way so that it can help us in next steps to create better layouts, better wireframes, better high quality products in a efficient and effective way. Architecture is not just all about laying out the structures within a digital platform or digital product you are designing, but it has more than that. It has more advantages and more features which can help you out in the later stages of your design process. So we're going to understand some of the key aspects and importance how information architectures can prove important to us in later phases. So basically, it has content organization. It is basically organizing all the information so that we don't miss any little information that is to be displayed on each page. It enables easy navigation design. It enables labeling and terminology for each page, for each section, for each category, for each heading on each page. So it basically definitely defines hierarchy and structure. It enables search functionality. So basically, if we want to use search functionality in our app, we can basically just define how that search feature is going to be implemented, where it's going to be searching the item it has told to be, and in which sections or headings it can look for the relevant info. It defines, as I mentioned earlier, it helps us in defining user flows. So we'll be covering user flows and workflows and type of flows in the next section. So it lays out the foundation for defining user flows. It enables wireframing and prototyping. So while we are designing the main actual low fidelity screens for our final output, we have that information architecture with us so that we can identify which 4 or 5 or n number of elements which are going to be displayed on the screen. So how we can arrange that. We enable consistency. Information architectures provide accessibility to all the information. It basically represents the visual representation of all the information. It's not just we are writing bullet points. So just remember this, that while we are defining information architecture, try to draw a diagram like this, like you draw a flow chart. Try to draw something like this so that it could be visually easy to understand by all the stakeholders. And when we define site architecture maps, so basically when we define site maps, we just basically remove this categories and this sub information that is to be laid on each page, and we just define the pages. So for example, we have mentioned home page, then products, then card, then account, then other pages, and then we can just list the pages that are to be presented on our website. So this was all about the information architectures. Hope you understand that. And in the next lecture, we will be covering type of flows that could be useful for you and that are essentially an important part of design process. Lecture, we will try to understand what are the different type of flows in UX design. So basically, flows are nothing but they refer to a path or sequences that users follow to achieve specific goals for complete tasks within a digital product or application. So flow is, as you understand by the definition, they are just trying to lay out the complete path for a user to complete a specific task or to complete his or her complete journey of using that product or just using a single page on that digital product. So each flow has its use, and each flow provides a more detailed or a more simpler version of the same flow. So we'll just get directly into those flows. So basically there are three type of flows that we use in our design process. First one is the workflow or storyboards. So they are basically showing the bigger picture, the biggest picture for a flow. They just view everything in a broader category, and that they just lay out that how user approaches the app. So basically they are encompassing the overall process and interactions users will have with the product, both within the application and in relation to the external processes. So these flows are not just basically related to the app screens or the website pages. They are more related to the overall customer experience, that how the users get onboarded on the app, how it he or her uses that app or platform, and then how he offboards. Next are user flows. So user flows are basically they focus on users journey through the application. So this is more detailed than workflow because the external experiences or the outside environment is removed. User flow is mostly concerned or basically concerned with the apps and websites main screens and pages, that how users enter the app and how users exit the app, and they provide a more detailed version of each step across the flow. So they highlight key interactions and decision points to achieve a specific goal. Last but not the least is task flow. So task flow is basically breaking down a single component or a single part of the user flow and presenting that into more detail. So task flow is basically more detailed version of user flow or workflow, but particularly for a specific task like filling out a form or your checkout experience, or you are going to upload a new video or new photo on your social media platform. So this is basically related to a specific task, as its name highlights, task flow. So we break down a single task into sequence of steps and interactions, providing a more detailed view of how the task is accomplished. So if we can look at some of the examples, we can better understand this. So as I mentioned, workflow, you can see its example. So it is not more detailed, but it basically defines how our app is going to be used by the user. So user lands on a home page, he navigates to the desired information page, he clicks on the call to action button, then he fills out a form, start trial, interacts with the product, and user purchases the product. So this is basically a broader picture of how our app works and how our app is going to be used by the end user. For user flow, I can show you a real life example. So this is a user flow that I created for project management system. So user flow is not just one. User flow is basically created different from for each user. As you if you remember that we have created three different personas for users. So in user flow we'll be creating three different user flows, each for each user, because each user has different functionality, features, and accessibility, which is assigned to them according to their role or their designations. So it has a entry point, then we go to the dashboard tab, then we have different information, how we can move to next information using this, how we can go back to the dashboard tab, how we can move across tabs, we can go to projects, we have tasks, we can, so if, and these are the submit is like the exit part. So these are basically concerned with more app data, and basically these are mostly used. Sometimes workflows and task flows are ignored and skipped, but user flows are most important because they are not much detailed, but detailed enough to let the other designers know that yes, what is the basic flow and what are the things that are being skipped, and meaning it is easier to review and give feedback upon. The last one is the task flow. So as I have just cropped out a simple example for a e-commerce website. So we take out a specific task from the user flow, we expand it with more details, and we name it task flow. So if your example, if you are reviewing your filling cart option, your checkout experience, so it has fill cart, you confirm contents, shipping address, use shipping as billing address, payment influence confirmation. So for example, in user flow, we have done it like fill card option, then checkout, and then confirmation. But here we have taken little details like confirm contents and shipping address and overall, and we have just expanded out that checkout experience for the task flow exam.